Tool on the Morning Edge with Josh and Chuck.
We got a still full jam-packed hour left for you on the Morning Edge. Don't forget at 10 a.m., the pre-sale for not one but two Christmas shows starts with bands like Churches and Smashing Pumpkins, Lovely the Band, and a whole lot more. Every Thursday, we bring our lawyer pal, Mr. James Wirth, up here to answer all your law questions. If you have anything that you need to know, whether it's for you or a friend or a family member or whatever, you can always call us, 460-1045, or you can hit us on Twitter at Edge Tulsa. James's website is makelaweasy.com. Good morning, James. Thank you for coming.
Good morning. Always good to be here.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Ready for the gauntlet. Here we go.
Here we go. My mom missed a court date and is now worried that she has a warrant out for her arrest. Her idea is just to bury her head in the sand. I am very worried, though. What can I tell her?
Yeah, you definitely don't want to bury your head in the sand, and the advice is going to depend on the type of court that she had. If it's a criminal case that was set and you fail to appear, a warrant will issue. It's very common for judges to triple the bond at that point.
Eesh.
The faster you try to get it resolved, the more likely you're able to get it resolved favorably. If you can get an attorney that same day, I mean, we've had clients that missed court in the morning and we've taken care of it in the afternoon before the warrant was fully out and before the bond was fully tripled. That's your best bet. The next day is kind of your best opportunity. If it is a criminal case, at that point, you're going to want to have your attorney go in, take you before the judge, see if the judge will recall the warrant, see if the judge will put the bond back what it was at previously, and then see if your bail bondsman will re-endorse. You have to coordinate all those things together, and then if everybody's on board, it's not a problem from that point going forward.
I can see that if that happens to you, that has to be a pretty daunting thing because it seems like, oh, I got to do this and I got to do that and whatever. So it sounds like to me, get a lawyer would be the very best thing in the world, right?
Yes, and
don't try to do it on your own.
Right, and of course, the best thing is don't miss court. And I can tell you one way that...
Well, duh. Yeah, of course.
One way that we help our clients, one way we try to make law easy for them is that we send up reminders for them. So we'll send them a text message. Usually we do it an hour before court and an email the day before court to remind them. One thing, though, just in case we're talking about this being a civil case,
right.
If you fail to show for a civil case, unless it's an asset hearing or something like that, it's not going to be a warrant. What's going to happen is if you're on the plaintiff side requesting relief, then your case will be dismissed. You won't get that relief. If you're on the defendant side, then the plaintiff could get a default judgment against you.
All right. Chuck, you got one?
Yes. This one says, I let a friend of mine who's no longer a friend of mine work on my car. I can see where this is going already.
Yep.
He's done a bunch of work for me in the past, and everything was fine. But this time, I think he screwed up my car really bad. What can I do? It sounds like a shade tree mechanic kind of situation.
Or it's just like a friend that goes, oh, I know how to fix that.
Right.
Hold on, let me get my wrench.
Right.
All right, so what can this guy do?
This one can be difficult, and it depends on what your relationship is and what the agreement was. I mean, ultimately, if this is not a person that's holding themselves out as an expert and charging you a fee and they're kind of doing it gratuitously, it can be tough. There's a little bit of risk that you assume when you're entering into that kind of deal. So for somebody that's involved in this situation, it really depends on the agreement that you had with them and how they held themselves out. So I'd say this is something you can call an attorney about, but it's going to depend on the specifics.
I think James just said you're out of luck. That's well, exactly what I heard. I heard call James,
right.
And then James is going to say, I'll try, but you're pretty much out of luck.
If you pay for the service with a check and have some paperwork behind it, obviously, you're probably in a better situation.
Yeah, if you're paying for it, then we know that there's some sort of agreement at least. So then is that a written agreement or do we have some implied terms in the agreement? If so, that may be something that you can enforce. And if it was negligence where they're saying that, I'm an expert in this and then they're not meeting industry standards and they screw it up, then you may have something there. But if it's just a friend trying to help you out for no fee,
right.
you may have assumed that risk.
As I said, you're out of luck.
Bastille and Marshmallow on Z104.5 The Edge, Tulsa's Rock Alternative. I'm sorry I laugh.
Listen, Marshmallow doesn't need you to laugh at him. Marshmallow's bank account would laugh at your bank account.
Well, everybody's bank account would.
So, speaking of rich people, James Wirth. The lawyer is here. He dresses way better than Chuck and I put together times 100. James is a very smart guy. He is a lawyer. He knows everything about the law, and he is taking your questions right now. His website is makelaweasy.com. James, this guy writes in, my father is unfortunately on the verge of dying. My siblings and I have all already, before his death, started to squabble over the will. They don't think that he wrote it when he was still with all of his faculties. I disagree. Okay, so I would assume that you get this all the time.
Yeah, we don't do a whole lot of estate planning, but this is certainly questions that come in, and we do have an attorney at our office that does handle some of that. So any questions, let us know. But in this situation, it's going to come down to whether he had testamentary capacity at the time that the will was executed.
What does that mean?
Essentially what it means is it's a different type of capacity than you might see in another case. But what that means is at the time that he signed those documents, one, did he know what he was signing? Two, did he know his friends and family? Could he name who they are and his relationship with them? Did he understand that? And three, did he understand all of his assets and what it means to give those away? That's kind of a general simplistic definition of testamentary capacity. But that's what is going to have to be determined. But at the time that was executed, was that drafted by an attorney? That person could be a witness to whether he had testamentary capacity.
Right.
It's also required to have witnesses. Those witnesses that would have signed off on it as witnesses are going to be ones that can testify whether there's testamentary capacity. And then there's also got to be generally a notary. So that's another person. So usually if it's handled properly, there should be plenty of witnesses to show that there was testamentary capacity. In Oklahoma, there is this unusual thing called a holographic will, where it's basically handwritten by the testator, the person that the will is regarding. They handwrite it, date it, sign it, and under some circumstances that can be enforceable. That would be one where there'd be more questions on whether there was testamentary capacity because there may not be witnesses.
All right, let me ask you a question, Chuck.
Right.
Do you have a will?
No, and I probably should.
You should go to makelaweasy.com and talk to James and his team over there.
I should.
James, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you have a will, James?
I do not.
James.
I know.
Okay, well, when you write this will, what are Chuck and I going to see out of this? Like, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, are we going to get a little money?
Sure, yeah.
All right.
You can count on it.
That's what I'm liking. All right, James Wirth is here, answering all your law questions, and hopefully making me and Chuck a tad bit richer.
I have a question, too. If you make a statement on a radio station, is that a binding
is that a
agreement?
binding
Is that a
contract?
I'm afraid that's not going to be binding.
No.
See, you know what the sad thing is we have to believe him whether it is or not. And he's like, nope, sure isn't.
Yeah, that's gratuitous and a lack of consideration. Those will be my defenses there.
Well, I guess we are friends now, so I guess that's the thing. This guy writes in, I took my mom out to dinner a few weeks ago. When we were walking to the car at the restaurant, she slipped on what I thought was just a small amount of water right inside their door. She banged up her knee pretty badly on the wall of the restaurant. Can I sue them?
Well, she would not be able to, but the person that was injured, was it her mother in this case?
Yeah.
There would be a claim there potentially. It's a slip and fall case. We actually handle a lot of these, and it has to do with negligence. Was there negligence on behalf of the property owner there? If we're talking about water that's there,
right,
it has to fall between these two areas. One, where the owner should have known about it and should have remediated it, and two, it was not open and obvious to where the person could see it. So obviously, if water typically gathers in that place,
right,
they know about it. They should have been prepared to either correct it or give notice of it. But if it's water that's translucent, maybe it would not be seen by somebody walking by, so it's not open and obvious. So yeah, there could be liability there. There's generally insurance to cover those things, both liability insurance and sometimes medical payments insurance. So definitely something to look into. Go to makelaweasy.com. We'd be interested in that.
There you go. All right, James, we'll be back here momentarily. We're the Morning Edge.
Smashing Pumpkins playing our Christmas show night number 2, which the pre-sale tickets go on sale here at 10 o'clock this morning. So head on over to edgetulsa.com to get all that info. That is the Old School Edge Song of the Day, Mayonnaise, and it's brought to you by our friends at the Woody Guthrie Center, woodyguthrieCenter.org.
Man, we are mere moments away from those tickets going on sale. James Wirth, makelaweasy.com. Our lawyer pal is here. And James, we have one more question for you. This guy writes in, my homeowners association is the worst. Well, join the club. I don't feel like I should have to pay when none of the amenities that I'm paying for work on a regular basis. I would assume that is fountains, gates, pools, whatever. They have threatened to take me to court because I refuse to pay the full amount every month. What can I do?
Well, essentially, when you buy into that community, you're buying into the homeowners association agreement and the terms. It's part of the land that you purchased. If they're not doing what they're supposed to do, there's a democratic process for that where you can hold the people that are representing you in the homeowners association accountable at the next election. Aside from that, you want to be very careful because the homeowners association, if dues are not paid, does have the ability to enforce those even to the point of selling your property in order to get the money. Yeah, so you don't want to mess around with that.
They can kick you out of the house of like the neighborhood and sell your house from you?
If you don't pay the dues, there's a process by which they can go through to sell your house. to cover the dues.
That doesn't seem fair.
Were you asking for a friend on that
This
last
is none
question?
of your business.
Okay, all right.
Maybe or maybe not. They have yelled at me about not having a tree big enough in my front. Okay, let's just take this back and
All
let's
right.
turn this into me.
All right.
I have a tree in my front yard.
Okay.
They say it's supposed to be, and I'm just quoting here, a shade tree. Well, for me, if I sat underneath it, there might be some shade. It's just not very much shade. But they constantly yell at me about not having a big enough tree in my front yard. I don't want to have to dig up the small tree that I planted. It was not easy, by the way. I am like a 98-pound weakling. I don't like to get out there and dig holes for trees. But they constantly yell at me. They can sell my house if they don't like my tree? Is that what you're saying, really?
No.
Good.
There
I'm not moving.
There are mechanisms to enforce that as well, but as far as selling the house, that's more for non-payment of dues.
What if I stop paying? Because they yell at me all the time.
I feel
Okay.
like that happens.
All right, so essentially, the HOA people, you have to pay your dues. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but for you though, it's a lot easier to run for the homeowner association than it is for mayor. So you might consider that.
Listen to this.
Yes.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Too bad, James. I'm going all the way to the top.
You're the one who wanted to live in the gated community.
Listen to me. You leave my gated community. I can badmouth the gated community. You cannot. Check out James's website, makelaweasy.com. We will see James again next week, right here, same time, same station. James, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right, we are the Morning Edge.